was made by God, that you would find your way to Him at last. Salvation is undoing in the sense that it does nothing, failing to support the world of dreams and malice. The song of our rejoicing is the call to all the world, that freedom is returned, that time is almost over, and God's Son has but an instant more to wait, until His Father is remembered, dreams are done, eternity has shined away the world, and only heaven now exists at all. Father, I will but to remember you. 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 Then our lesson is, what can I seek for, Father, but your love? Perhaps I think I seek for something else, something I have called by many, many names. Yet is your love the only thing I seek or even sought or ever sought. Yet is your love the only thing I seek or ever sought. For there is nothing else that I could ever really want to find. Let me remember you, let me remember you. What else could I desire but the truth about myself? Father, I will but to remember you. Father, I will but to remember you. This is your will, my brother, and you share this will with me. This is your will, my brother, and you share this will with me, and with the one as well who is our Father. To remember Him is heaven, this we seek, and only this is what it will be given us to find. To remember Him is heaven, this we seek, and only this is what it will be given us to find. Father, I will but to remember you. Father, I will but to remember you. Father, I will but to remember you. Well, thank you all so much for joining me in studying A Course in Miracles. We're ready for lesson 231 in A Course in Miracles. Here on, when we're reading from the Foundation for Inner Peace version of A Course in Miracles here on Sunday, August the 18th of 2024. And I've just sang it, but let's read it again. And we'll also read what is salvation. Let's start with what is salvation. Salvation is a promise made by God that you would find your way to Him at last. It cannot but be kept. It guarantees that time will have an end, and all the thoughts that have been born in time will end as well. God's word is given every mind which thinks that it has separate thoughts, and will replace these thoughts of conflict with the thought of peace. You remember, the separate thoughts produce conflict, and unified thought with God and all your brothers and sisters brings about the thought of peace. The thought of peace was given to God's Son the instant that his mind had thought of war. There was no need for such a thought before, for peace was given without opposite, merely was. But when the mind is split, there is a need of healing. So the thought that has the power to heal the split became a part of every fragment of the mind that still was one but failed to recognize its oneness. Now it did not know itself and thought its own identity was lost. Salvation is undoing in the sense that it does nothing, failing to support the world of dreams and malice. Thus it lets illusions go. By not supporting them, it merely lets them quietly go down to dust. And what they hid is now revealed, an altar to the holy name of God whereon His word is written, with the gifts of your forgiveness laid before it, and the memory of God not far behind. Let us come daily to this holy place and spend a while together. Here we share our final dream. It is a dream in which there is no sorrow, for it holds a hint of all the glory given us by God. The grass is pushing through the soil. The trees are budding now, and birds have come to live within their branches. Earth is being born again in new perspective. Night has gone, and we have come together in the light. From here we give salvation to the world, for it is here salvation was received. The song of our rejoicing is the call to all the world that freedom is returned, that time is almost over, and God's Son has but an instant more to wait. Until His Father is remembered, dreams are done. Eternity has shined away the world, and only heaven now exists at all. Only heaven now exists at all. And then lesson 231, Father, I will but to remember you. What can I seek for, Father, but your love? Perhaps I think I seek for something else, a something I have called by many names. Yet is your love the only thing I seek or ever sought, for there is nothing else that I could ever really want to find. Let me remember you. What else could I desire but the truth about myself? What else could I desire but the truth about myself? Father, I will but to remember you. This is your will, my brother, and you share this will with me and with the one as well who is our Father. To remember Him as heaven, this we seek, and only this is what it will be given us to find. Father, I will but to remember you. All right, well, let's go look at our text reading. We left off on we read paragraph 7 in chapter 25, the justice of God, section 7, the rock of salvation. So while you're turning there, and I would encourage you to follow along on your own device or on a Course in Miracles. Get one at acim.org or read it at acim.org. And if you can, I mean, if you're just driving and you just want something to really inspire you, encourage you, and you've already done your lesson, well, then just listen. Or even if, I would encourage you, though, ultimately to read the lesson as well as listen to it. Or read it and don't listen to me at all. Anyway, but more than anything, do what it calls to do today, which is a short practice period when you wake up in the morning and when you go to bed at night, of whatever length makes you happy. And then an hourly remembrance of the lesson for today. Father, I will but to remember you. And when you do that, give God thanks and ask Him for guidance for the next hour when you'll check in and have one of those holy instants. What's going on around the world today? Bad Poetry Day. Well, I don't know if there's ever such thing as bad poetry. There may be poetry that you don't like. If it's poetry and someone's written it, well, then somebody liked it. Birth Control Pills Day. I guess this was the day. I looked that up, and I can't remember what year it was. 1964 is what comes to my mind, but I'm not sure about that they first came out with birth control pills. God's Preeminence Day. Preeminence, suppressing all others' superiority. So we just acknowledge that God is in charge, and we don't want to have the authority problem, which is, the Course calls it the authority problem, which is to say that I want God's will. I want to do my will instead of God's will. I want my will to be God's will. And ultimately it is when you get your thought lined up with God, but you got to let go of the ego to get there, though. And, it might come in, varying stages. You may hold the ego a lot to begin with, and then less and less and less, until finally you're a radiant, shimmering reflection of God's love. Anyway, God's Preeminence Day. Helium Discovery Day was discovered on this day in 1868. Mail Order Catalog Day. Badge Ribbon Day. Fajita Day, Ice Cream Pie Day, Never Give Up Day. And I would encourage you, sometimes some things are worth giving up. If you're trying to do something that's not in harmony with the divine will, well, then give it up. Let God's preeminence prevail. But if it is God's will, well, then keep doing it. If it's God's will that you be at peace, which it is, then you just don't give up. Never give up finding God's will for you. Pinot Noir Day, which is red wine. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. And Serendipity Day. Good luck and good fortune day. Well, we're studying A Course in Miracles, which paves the way in my mind. And it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be A Course in Miracles. It can be any devotion to spirit, whatever practice, whether it's a Buddhist teaching or a Baptist teaching or a Catholic teaching or a Islamic teaching. If you're devoted to God the best you know how, that is what's important, is your devotion to God. He'll do all the work. He'll do all the work. I'd encourage you to have that open mind and ask, do what I call listening prayer. Instead of telling God what to do and think, ask Him what to do for yourself and what to think. Okay, and then out of edible landscaping, we've got the Jujube, and the Jujube has a large oval mahogany-colored fruit ripening in September. Fruits are crisp and sweet, fresh. Fruits are dried, candied, and prepared in Asian cuisine. Showy tree with glossy leaves. Small yellow flowers bloom in June here. That'd be in Virginia. Zone 6B or 7. Flowers escape late frosts and smell like grape soda. Tree is small, about 15-foot maximum, and round. Jujube is easy to grow and has no pests. A less care, no spray plant. Rootstock can sucker, especially if ground is cultivated around the plant. Looks like you could start your own plants just by working the soil up around your little tree. Space 10-foot to 15-foot circles, zone 6 through 9. So that's the Jujube, and it is the genus is Ziziphus genus, and the species is Jujube. Okay, now let's go look at our lesson for today. Our text reading again. Of course, our lesson, let's say it again. You remember what it is? Can you think of it? Father, I will but to remember you. We want to try to keep that ever present in our mind today. Father, I will but to remember you. The rock salvation was yesterday, is what we're reading in paragraph 7. Your special function is the special form in which the fact that God is not insane appears most sensible and meaningful to you. Let's read it again here on God's Preeminence Day. Your special function is the special form in which the fact that God is not insane appears most sensible and meaningful to you. The content is not the same. The form is suited to your special needs and to the special time and place in which you think you find yourself, and where you can be free of place and time, and all that you believe must limit you. The Son of God cannot be bound by time nor place, nor anything God did not will. Yet if his will is seen as madness, then the form of sanity which makes it most acceptable to those who are insane requires special choice. And I might say, if you believe that God is vindictive or punishing or is going to cause pain to come to you because you've done some tragic thing or some terrible thing, some bad thing, some ungodly thing, then you are thinking that God is like man, and you're thinking of man as you're thinking of God as insanely. God is only love, and he has the way of changing everything you thought was done that was not loving to a loving to love. Okay, let's continue. Yet if let's see, the Son of God cannot be bound by time nor place nor anything God did not will. Yet if his will is seen as madness, then the form of sanity which makes it most acceptable to those who are insane requires special choice. Nor can this choice be made by the insane, whose problem is their choices are not free and made with reason in the light of sense. And they're not sensible choices, huh? Paragraph 8. It would be madness to entrust salvation to the insane. Because he is not mad, has God appointed one as sane as he to raise a saner world to meet the sight of everyone who chose insanity as his salvation. To this one, be the Holy Spirit, to this one is given the choice of form most suitable to him, one which will not attack the world he sees, but enter into it in quietness and show him he is mad. This one but points to an alternative, another way of looking at what he has seen before, and recognizes as the world in which he lives and thought he understood before. Paragraph 9. Now must he question this, because the form of the alternative is one which he cannot deny, nor overlook, nor fail completely to perceive at all. To each his special function is designed to be perceived as possible, and more desired, as it proves to him that it is an alternative he really wants. From this position does his sinfulness and all the sin he sees within the world offer him less and less, until he comes to understand it cost him his sanity, and stands between him and whatever hope he has of being sane. Nor is he left without escape from madness, for he has a special part in everyone's escape. He can no more be left outside without a special function in the hope of peace than could the Father overlook his Son and pass him by in careless thoughtlessness. Paragraph 10. What is dependable except God's love? And where does sanity abide except in him? The one who speaks for him can show you this in the alternative he chose especially for you. It is God's will that you remember this and so emerge from deepest mourning into perfect joy. Accept the function that has been assigned to you in God's own plan to show his Son that hell and heaven are different, not the same, and that in heaven they are all the same, and that in heaven they are all the same. Now, talking about all of us as how I'm taking that, are all in heaven in reality, and we're all the same. We're all in God. and that in heaven they are all the same, without the differences which would have made a hell of heaven and a heaven of hell, had such insanity been possible. Had sin been real, had God thought that sin was real, then it would have been exactly the way he said. But he's letting us see step by step that that's not the case. Paragraph 11. The whole belief that someone loses but reflects the underlying tenet, God must be insane. The whole belief that someone loses but reflects the underlying tenet, God must be insane. For in this world it seems that one must gain because another lost. If this were true, then God is mad indeed. But what is this belief except a form of the more basic tenet? Sin is real and rules the world. For every little gain must someone lose, and pay exact amount in blood and suffering. For otherwise would evil triumph, and destruction be the total cost of any gain at all. You who believe that God is mad, look carefully at this, and understand that it must be either God or this must be insane, but hardly both. Paragraph 12. Salvation is rebirth of the idea no one can lose for anyone to gain. Let's catch that again. Salvation is rebirth of the idea no one can lose for anyone to gain. And everyone must gain if anyone would be a gainer. Everyone must gain if anyone be a gainer. We're all in this together. Here is sanity restored. Salvation is rebirth of the idea no one can lose for anyone to gain. And everyone must gain if anyone would be a gainer. Here is sanity restored. And on this single rock of truth can faith in God's eternal sameness rest in perfect confidence and perfect peace. Reason is satisfied, for all insane beliefs can be corrected here, and sin must be impossible. If this is true, this is the rock on which salvation rests, the vantage point from which the Holy Spirit gives meaning and direction to the plan in which your special function has a part. And here your special function is made whole because it shares the function of the whole. And the last paragraph to finish this section, 13. Remember, all temptation is but this, a mad belief that God's insanity would make you sane and give you what you want. In other words, to believe that God believes in sin, which would put God as insane. And so with that in mind, remember, all temptation is but this, a mad belief that God's insanity would make you sane and give you what you want, that either God or you must lose to madness because your aims cannot be reconciled. Death demands life, but life is not maintained at any cost. No one can suffer for the will of God to be fulfilled. No one can suffer for the will of God to be fulfilled. Salvation is His will because you share it, not for you alone, but for the self that is the Son of God, which is all our brothers and sisters, as well as us. He cannot lose, for if He could, the loss would be His Father's, and in Him no loss is possible. And this is sane, because it is the truth. Okay, well, I think let's go ahead and close with our song, and we'll go through the lesson once again in our song today. And let's make sure I get it right here. Father, I will. Father, I will but to remember you. Father, I will but to remember you. Salvation is a promise made by God, that you would find your way to Him at last. Father, I will but to remember you. Father, I will but to What can I seek for, Father, but your love? Perhaps I think I seek for something else, something I have called by many, many names. Yet is your love the only thing I seek or ever sought? For there is nothing else that I could ever really want. Yet there is nothing else that I could ever really want or find. For there is nothing else that I could ever really want to find. Let me remember you. Let me remember you. What else could I desire but the truth about myself? Again on that. What can I seek for, Father, but your love? Perhaps I think I seek for something else, something I have called by many, many names. Yet it is your love the only thing I seek or ever sought. For there is nothing else that I could ever really want to find. Let me remember you. Let me remember you. What else could I desire but the truth about myself? This is your will, my brother, had you share. This is your will, my brother, and you share this will with me, and with the one as well who is our Father. To remember him is heaven, this we seek, and only this is what it will be given us to find. Father, I will but to remember you. Father, I will but to remember you. Father, I will but to remember you. Do we really will to remember God, the pure one, the sinless one? Let God be preeminent today and remember him. Father, I will but to remember you. And our word for peace today is out of the Chickasaw language, and it's Nanna, ayya. Nanna, ayya. Nanna, ayya. The Chickasaw of North America. Father, I will but to remember you. Nanna, ayya.